Thanks, everybody. We're just waiting for one more speaker, but I think we'll kick off anyway. Again, thank you, Arthur. Really, very pleased to be here after 3 years. It's nice to see lots of people I saw in Sofia in 2019. As Arthur said, we've got this is where the action is. We're going to hear from our colleagues in Albania about how they're managing their critical minerals through the agency and the geological survey. We'll hear from Alpchrome, from the Yilmaden people who've recently acquired those assets and what they're going to do with them. And then after those, the 3 Albanian projects, we'll hear about the activities of Adriatic Metals in Bosnia and Serbia, Tethian in Kosovo, and finally Tony will give us a whistle-stop tour of some of the things he's been up to over the last few years. So I'd like to invite Dr. Edmund Gascoli onto the stage to deliver his talk, which is the mining industry in Albania. Dr. Gascoli is the CEO advisor for mines from the Albanian National Agency on National Resources.
Thank you very much for your introduction. Good afternoon, everybody. After the presentation of Mr. Buliku about mining activity in Albania, my presentations will be focused on critical material and especially about the chromium, copper, and nickel also. Not only the nickel, but also the cobalt, because in our laterite saprolites, nickel and cobalt are always together. Okay, mining activity in our country is very important commodity for our company. Next slide, please. Let's start with the chromium production. As you see in this slide, the chromium production organized in the state enterprise started in 1948. And some general data about the last year are presented in this slide. The production from this year up to last year is roughly 34 million tons of crude chromium ore, and while for the last year the production of chromium ore is 650,000 tons, chromium concentrate roughly 50,000 tons, and the ferrochromium is the biggest production in history of our country. For this last year, 104,000 tons of. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, the chromium deposits in our country are located in the eastern ophidic belt of Albania, divided in 3 main massives. The first one is the northeast ultramafic massive in Tropoja Kuksi, with a quantity of reserve roughly 5 million tons. Central region Bulqiza ultramafic massive, which is the most important massive concerning the chromium deposit and the chromium production. And the third one is the southeast region massive, which is the less important massive because the different deposited occurrences in this massive are located in the protected area environment point of view. So it is quite difficult to have mining activity in this massive. Except, or together with the mine in this massive, you can see in the slide, and also some beneficiation plants, and also three smelters, two smelters in Elbasani and 1 smelter in Burelin. Next slide, please. As is mentioned during the presentation of Mr. Buliku, there are 251 mining permits in chromium ore in our country, and as you can see in this presentation, in this slide, quite 50% of mining licensing activity are located in Bulqiza Massif, which, as I just said, is the most important massive in our country about the chromite. Next slide, please. Starting for the 1984 and ending in the last year, some general data about the different regions and different years are presented in this table, and you can see for the last year, from 1998 up to the last year, quite 9 million tons of chromium was produced, and we are consumed 12 million tons of reserves. And recent reserves situation is 12 million tons. Separated in different regions, as I just presented in the previous slide. The most important quantity of chromium reserve is in Bultizan Massif. Considering this quantity of actual situation of reserves, the next slide I'll make some comments about the future of mining activity in this branch of mining industry. Next slide, please. Okay, as you can see in these graphs concerning the concentrate and the ferrochromium production, even during the period when we have been in the pandemic years, the production of concentrate and the ferrochromium has been quite stable. Next slide, please. Okay, some consideration about the future of this mining industry and about the sustainable development of it. As I just mentioned in the previous slide, the quantity of reserves actually in this kind of ore is 12 million tons. And we determined a target of 700 or 800,000 tons per year, which means that we have enough reserves for, we can make the calculation everybody. Okay, 12 of, considering also the fluctuation of production for each year, for 12 or 15 years. So in this condition, first of all, not for the chromium ore, but also for the other commodities, like the copper and the copper mainly, because the laterite and sulfurite are in the favorable condition in the point of view of reserves. Now, first of all the North Balkan countries need, as per me, need to update the long-term strategy, mining strategy, the medium and short-term mining policy, considering at the same time the critical material risk index according to the project classification. We have a look at this ranking. The chromium is ranked in the 8th place, nickel is in the 31st place, meanwhile the copper is ranked in the 28th place. And considering the nickel is together or the cobalt which is ranked in the 1st place. It is quite the most riskier material of the mining industry everywhere in the world, not in Albania. Of course, Albania is a supplier of Europe for a considerable critical material like the chromium, copper, and also the nickel through two smelters which are located in Kosovo and in Northern Macedonia. We'll see the next slide about the nickel. So in this slide, as you can see, some consideration, some orientations presented for the future mining activity and for the sustainable development of this kind of mining industry in our country. Next slide, please. Okay, laterites. As the chromium ore and laterites are also, as you can see in the slide, are connected with ultramafic rocks and are located in the eastern ophiolitic belt, also divided through main regions. The first one in Cook's region in the north, with a quantity of 100 and something else thousand ton of chromium, of nickel ore and saprolite, with an average content of nickel 1%, and a grade of cobalt up to 630 ppm. Librash-Pogradeci is a region where we can find the deposit only of laterite types, with an average content of 1% of nickel and roughly 630 ppm of cobalt. Let's pass to the Devil region. Even within this region, you can see the quantity of reserves is the same, 100 million tons. Altogether, the iron nickel on the laterite and saprolite are 330 million tons of ore altogether. There are 31 mining permitting activity in this country, and I would like to mention that actually are active only the small mines which operate in open cast, open pit mines, because the operating by the underground mines is quite difficult for the market, because the cost production is a little higher in comparison with an open pit mines. As I mentioned in the previous slide about chromite, we have an integrated system starting from the mining, dressing, and smelting. Meanwhile, if we talk about nickel, we are only in the fair link of the chain. So we are only the mining. And we export. Next slide, please. Push on one. One again. Okay, that's right. As you can see in this slide, laterite and saprolite deposit in our country are medium, small to medium size, and within let's say, in grade up to 1.2% of nickel. And you can see in the slide some other laterite deposit in Balkan, just to have an idea about the importance of our deposit in comparison with the other deposits in Balkan. Next slide. As you can see in this slide, in this table, we have had, let's say, more than 13 years without this commodity production. We have also had an important production starting from the 2016 up to last year, but as you can see in the slides, the maximum production is in the 2016, and the last years is quite, let's say, 400 to 500,000 tons per year. This is not because we cannot produce more, but the problem is that we export this commodity into smelters in Balkan, in northern Macedonia and in Kosovo, because you know that there are two smelters in Kosovo with an annual capacity of 12,000 tons of nickel metal per year. Meanwhile, in northern Macedonia, 50,000 tons per year. And we fulfill all the demand of these two smelters, which make the mixture with the ore imported from Indonesia. So the export of our commodities can be considered like a saturated market. For this reason, we'll see in the next slide, it's necessary to look attention to some other technologies for the nickel extraction. and to invite the foreign companies to invest for the nickel production, like a nickel metal, or like other commodities and ferroalloys and so on. We'll see the next slides. So in this, the map, you can see that with the black are the direction of movement export to the Kosovo and Macedonia. And we have exported many years ago some quantity of ore in Larko, Greece. It's a little far from our country, so the cost of transport is very important. And with the black line, you can see the material flow from the Kuksi to the Elbasani in the case of applying different technology. That's, for example, some parametallurgy to produce the pig iron with the nickel, Caron method, which actually belong to the history in our country, or some other technologies for the nickel extraction with low cost. Next slide, please. Some consideration about the future of this this branch of mining industry in our country are presented in this slide. But anyway, we'll see in the picture form this slide.
Just a minute to go, Dr. Koskoli.
Yeah, just finished. You saw the map of Balkan, the position of different nickel production units and so. And there are some suggestions about the technologies way to apply, but anyway, we cannot say this a priori without making a feasibility study or making even a better idea about the chemistry of our ores, or part of this also to apply a little of tests. Copper, the situation in the copper is quite in the chromium ore. So in our country, we are only the half of this integrated system with only the mining and the beneficiation. There are two Turkish companies which operate in this country, in this kind of commodities, is the Ekin Mado and Tete mine, which actually mined the copper deposit in the north of Albania and produce many the concentrate and quantity of, let's say, 30,000 tons per year. Okay, even about the copper, we can say this. We can give the same consideration and the same comments about the reserves and the necessity of geological workings to, first of all, to have a better geological opinion and idea about our deposit, and to enlarge the size of existing deposit, and also to find some new reserves in order to have a sustainable development for the future. Okay,
that's about it, I think.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Just shows how much potential there is. We only got through chromites, nickel laterites, and copper, and there's plenty more. Yeah. Our next speaker is Mr. Bilal Koçi. He's the Director of Mineral Resources at the Albanian Geological Survey, so he's hopefully going to fill in a bit more of this perspective around the mineral wealth here in Albania. Just so you know, the presentation is in English, but Mr. Koçi is going to speak in Albanian, so if you've got your headsets, please put them on now.
Good afternoon. Greetings to everyone. In my presentation,
So my presentation is in English, but however, I will keep my presentation in Albanian, also out of respect for all the participants. The presentation is entitled Critical Raw Materials in Albania. As you may know, the Albanian Geological Survey is one of the oldest institutions in Albania, and this year we will have the 100th anniversary of its establishment, where apart from the key minerals that we have in our country, such as chromium, iron, nickel, and so on and so forth, a lot of studies have been conducted for the minerals that are considered critical nowadays, given the needs that they have. Very briefly, I will introduce and give you some data with regards to the platinum group elements for bauxite, manganese, titan magnetite, phosphorus, lithium, and rare earth elements. And in our institutions, we have a lot of projects, reports, and studies that are archived and can be found there. And for many years, they have been conducted for these types of minerals. As you might know, Albania is a small territory, but is full of minerals. And given the importance that the critical raw materials have, are in high quantities in Albania and compose one of the most important areas of research, and that is why it's necessary to explore them. During the latest years, the Albanian Geological Survey, and especially the Directorate of Mineral Resources in the Albanian Geological Survey since 2021, and ongoing, we have undertaken a project for the research of the REE, such as lithium in our country, and by the end of 2023, we will prepare the final report of this project and we will submit the acquired data. As a follow-up, very briefly, I will give you some data, as I mentioned above, with regards to this type of minerals, and also full data can be found in the Central Archive of the Albanian Geological Survey. And as I mentioned, we have the reports prepared by our colleagues among the years. Here is a table of the critical raw materials that, according to the report of the European Union of 2020, even though I would like to highlight that this type of minerals, given the current conditions and the latest developments and also the political developments in Europe, can and might change and have currently changed. Some of these minerals that you see in the table can be found in our country as well. And I will give you some key data with regards to what we have acquired in our country. Here we have a table of the critical raw materials according to the economic importance, according to the results of the supply risk, and also the assessment of criticality of 2020, and based on the EU report of 2020. And then are some data with regards to the PGE that we also find in our country. As I mentioned before, a lot of works have been conducted among the years, especially in the region of Tropoja, in the massif of Bulqiza, in the ultra-basic massifs of Albania with regards to the platinum group elements. And according to the studies conducted in the last years, they have been classified in 4 types according to the content of their key elements and according to the content of OS, ruthenium, and in the second type are the platiniferous elements. In the third one is the palladium, and also we have the full platiniferous elements. And you can see the main resources and deposits of our country. So platinum is localized in the northern part of the ultra-basic massif of Tropoja in Bregu of Biba area, and the PGE content is 4 grams per ton. And this mineralization is localized in this region, but we can find it in the massif of Bulqiza in the area of Tsoruja. Here you can see cross-cutting layout of the spread of the PGE and the localization area of this mineral. Then you can see a table of the deposits and mineral occurrences with regards to the data that we have with regards to the platinum group elements. And in bold, you can see the two key deposits that have been identified with regards to the PGE. Some brief data with regards to bauxites. As you might know, bauxites in our country can be found in the regions of the northern part of Albania, especially in the Albanian Alps of Tropoja that have the formations in the area of Valbona. We have the Cheta of Arusha and Luga Silkut and other Jurassic formations in Malsea Mare area, and also in the lower and upper Cretaceous area of Albania. In the deity area, as we have also deposits, we have a cross-cutting view of the deposits in the deity area with regards to the bauxite mineral, and some geological data with regards to works conducted in this massive or in this area. Then we have a table of the key deposits and the occurrences of bauxites in Albania, and we have reserves, we have mineral occurrences, we also have data of the chemical elements and their content with regards to aluminium, iron, and CO2. We have a lot of resources and occurrences of bauxites, even though the number of reserves is not high. But however, given the current conditions, we can consider them as a very important elements, and the studies have determined as around 20 million tons of reserves, and with a content of L2O3. We have the region of Tropoja, a cross-cutting view of the Alps of Tropoja. In Albania, we have the manganese occurrence, especially in the area of Goloborda, Topojan, and also some areas of Bulqiza. We have around 25 deposits and around 309,000 tons of occurrence with manganese content. Here we can see the mineralized occurrences with regards to manganese in our country, and in the bold you can see the key locations where we have calculated the reserves. With regards to Titan magnetite in Albania can be found in the western part of ultra-basic massives, especially in Sukaji, Ungre, Frege. And we have the key deposits of Titan magnetite in the area with the following mineral content, mainly with titanium content, 6%. Based on the works conducted by the Institute among the years, we have seen a higher level of presence and occurrence of them. You can see here the cross-cutting view of Sukaji deposit on location. As you can see, it is present in the gabbro formations, accompanied by pyric sands and plagioclasts, and there is a considerable prevalence of them. Here in this table, you can see several data with regards to the localization of these deposits, coordinates, and also the content of TiO2, that is an average level in these deposit locations. Phosphorites. The phosphorites, as you might know, are sedimentary rocks that are localized in Albania, especially in the Ionian area, in Jurassic formations, and also Cretaceous formations. In the Jurassic ones, we have the uran-bearing phosphorites, whereas in the Cretaceous deposits we have the key locations of Gusmar, Nivis, Fushbard, and Luf, that are formations where we have localized this type of mineralization, type of phosphorite. These are data with regards to Fushbard deposit, a cross-cutting view. They belong to the Konakan age, and they have the following mineral content, and we have the view of the open pit and also a crosscut of the deposit of Fushbard. As a in the following table, here we have the deposits and also the occurrence of phosphorites in Albania. We can see the key deposits that are shown in bold in the table, and they show the key reserves of phosphorites in Albania, and we currently have 46 million tons of reserves. In the following table, we can see several brief data with regards to phosphorite-bearing deposits, and the uranium oxide content is 0.203%. Here we have some graphical views of the Fushbard area, some cross-cutting views of these deposit locations. In the Gusmar area, we have a part of the geological map of the entire region and several cross-cutting layouts or views. In the Nivica area as well, we can see part of the geological map thanks to the works conducted in the Nivica area, and also some brief data with regards to mineralization of rare earths in our country. As you know, the rare earth management or presence are in the Ninch area, and we have contacts of phosphorite bauxites, and also we have sandy formations of Tartanian. Here we have high contact of cerium, yttrium, as you might see also in the slide mentioned, from 0.0002 to 0.03%, and the rest of all key elements that can be found and are present, and also tracing elements such as the terbium, ytterbium, holmium, thorium, and gadolinium. The elements of gallium, germanium, uranium, and vanadium can be found in the clay sheets that are in the Priska area in Škoda, where we have conducted several geological surveys and studies and also geological processing, and we have the following content: gallium 0.0005%, uranium 0.005%, germanium 0.002%, vanadium 0.02 up to 0.07%, and you can also see a cross-cutting view and layout of the Priska area where we have conducted drilling works, and also we have taken samples. The Priska area, we have the Priska suite where we have deposits spread out according to the previously mentioned elements. As highlighted before in our institution, and in the 100 years that we've been working, the entire previous and current one, all the information that we have with regards to the minerals can be found in the following link. You can enter the archive of the data and the studies and all the reports conducted and drafted by our institution can be found there. You can click and access the link, and you also can find data with regards to key deposits and locations with regards to these rare minerals or critical materials in Albania. We also have data thanks to reserve project and Mintel4U project.
Albanian Geological Survey, I would really like to thank Geological Survey of Slovenia and Duška Rogovec for our cooperation to the project next 2 years ago. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Bilal. That's amazing how much you managed to pack into those 14 minutes. That was great. And so if you thought that Albania was just chromite, well, think again. So it seems to have everything. And now we're moving on to Cemil Acer, who's the Deputy General Director of Albchrome. As you will all know, that Albchrome was recently acquired by Yilmardin, so we're very excited to hear what they have to say about future development of the assets, the mines, the smelters, etc.
Thank you for introduction. Dear ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my presentation about Albchrome and Yildirim Group. I am quite happy to be here and have an opportunity to present our company to such a distinguished guest. So the first day we entered to Albania, we heard from the news that there's a Turkish company invest. It's echoing to me, but I should stay a little bit out.
I think that's okay. Yeah, you're okay.
Yeah.
Do you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. So when we first come to Albania, we heard from the news that there's a Turkish company entered and invested into Albania. Actually, it was wrong. It was a global company invested into Albania, active in many sectors. So before coming into my presentation, I would like to show our respect to our people working in our company and environment and the communities that is giving us this opportunity to be here and working in this business. So what I am saying with the global companies, that Yildirim Group is actually active in mainly 5 continents in different sectors. One of them is mining and the port management, fertilizer, energy, logistics, etc. So we are active in 5 continents in more than 50 countries, as you see from the map. So that's why I am saying that it's not a Turkish company, it's a global company. So what we are doing in these 5 flagships business in metals and mining side especially, we have more than 150 million tons of chrome ore reserve in all around the world, mainly in Turkey and Kazakhstan and now in Alcrom. So what I am saying, 150 million can be set in an equivalent high quality number, maybe around 30-40 million. So what is our production capacity is our 2.5 million tons of chrome ore annual. So this is the biggest, one of the biggest capacity in the world in terms of chromium production. So with most of these our own production, we are producing more than 100,000 tons of hard carbon, hard quality ferrochromium in our facilities. With more than 15 ferrochromium furnaces, let's say 16 in terms of ferrochromium, high carbon, and there is another one, low carbon, now in Albania. And in what countries? We are active in Turkey, Sweden, Russia, in Albania in terms of ferrochromium. And our mining facilities, mining underground and open pit mines are in Turkey, Kazakhstan, and Albania right now. So in terms of quality, our product is one of the highest quality material in the world. Together with ferrochromium, we are active in other ferroalloy businesses as well. So we have ferrovanadium and ferromolybdenum production facility in US, Pittsburgh. So what we are doing there is converting the raw material to ferrovanadium and supplying our customers with this raw material. And now we recently acquired a ferronickel production facility in Kosovo. The transition period is still ongoing, so I will also discuss about that in my presentation. So together with it, one of our raw material that we are consuming in our production is the metallurgical coke. We are also producing it in our facility in Colombia as well. So in Colombia, we have another big investment, which is in terms of reserves, more than 700 million tons of coal in underground. It is in feasibility level, so we are developing it. So the other flagship of the group is port management. We have around 21, I think it has been 22 now, 22 ports in all around the world, in Turkey, Malta, Sweden, Norway, Portugal, Spain, Italy, Peru, Ecuador, and Guatemala. Together with it, we are one of the biggest fertilizer producing company in Turkey. We are producing world-class fertilizer around in a 1 million square meter area. ammonia, and CAN26 and 30T, which are called as different fertilizers. So we have also shipping and logistics holdings in this group. So we are integrated into the logistics as well. We have 19 vessels working in all around the world. And also we invested in energy and power generation as well. I will go into detail later. So as we are in mining exhibition, I will go into detail of mining facilities, what we are doing in all around the world. So our first investment in mining is the Etikrom in Turkey, which has a chromium resource over 150 million tons and reserve of 130 million tons. So we are consuming this raw material to produce 165,000 tons of high carbon ferrochromium in Turkey. So after this investment, company invested on one of the oldest ferrochromium producing facility in Sweden, which is one of the biggest one as well. So it's producing more than 250,000 tons high carbon ferrochromium. And after that, in 2014, company invested on both facilities of Kazakhstan mine, Voskhod mine, and ferrochromium plant in Tikhvin, Russia. So they are working in integration. So as you see, the company in Pittsburgh, Bear Metallurgical Company, with the production capacity of 19 million pounds annual of vanadium and molybdenum. As you see, the best coal company in Colombia has 6 billion tons of resource, but when you convert it to economical numbers, which is reserve, is more than 700 million tons. So recently, as you know, we acquired Albania from the former owner of Balfin Group, which has the capacity of around 72,000 tons, but effective capacity is around 60,000 tons. So our reserve is around 3 million tons. And Kosovo has 12,000 tons per year annum capacity in terms of nickel metal. So with these numbers, these facilities, these production plants and mine make us the #1 hard lumpy chrome ore producers in the world, and second high carbon ferrochromium producer in the world again. And in terms of all the chromium business in the world, like chemicals, low carbon, metal, and etc., we are the #4. So I want to point out what we have done so far in terms of technology to show an indication of what we are going to do in Albania. So we focused on improving the efficiencies in our facilities after acquiring it. So after acquiring the companies, we did not go in the same way. We changed the way how to proceed in the production and market and strategy setup. So first thing we did in Turkey was to convert the underground mine to a fully mechanized mine. We increased the production maybe 3 times or so in a year and made it fully mechanized and fully modern one in terms of health and safety, in terms of production. So that can be an indication for the people here to understand what we are going to focus on and what we are going to achieve in the near future. It is not an easy task. It will take some time, but this is one of our targets in Albania to achieve. Oh, we passed it, I think. Sorry about that. So an interesting thing is that we also achieved a patented technology by our people in our company, patented technology of enriching the chromium. So most of you may know that the recovery of this enriching chromium is quite less in terms of physical separation. So we almost doubled it in one patented technology. Now we are utilizing it in Turkey, and it is the #1 in the world as a both recovery and efficiency. So you see the pictures at the bottom of this facility. And together with it, we are also utilizing the waste, recovering the waste by this technology, and producing also another product, which is olivine, which is a refractory raw material. So what we have done with these improvements, we become the #1 taxpayer in Kazakhstan. It was a kind of a unsustainable mine. It was not making money, but after under Yildirim Group's management, it became a #1 taxpayer in Kazakhstan. So one of our company's motto is zero waste in ferrochromium production. So what we aim is that with the approach, every material as a processed material has a value on it. So we need to bring it into reality. So we, as I said, we are recovering olivine from our waste, and some remaining material is used as a paste filling, as a support material in underground, and slags are used in producing road bricks and pavement mosses. So they are used as a construction material. So at the end, we have nothing solid as a waste. So only emission that we are releasing to the atmosphere is now mostly carbon dioxide. So what we are doing to reduce this carbon dioxide as well, we invested on solar power plant for 44 megawatts in Turkey. Now also we are going to invest in Albania and also in Kosovo. So our next aim will be the production of green alloy. So we established an R&D center in Turkey. We are searching for it now. We are searching for new material development, process improvement, efficiency improvement, and some cost reduction, something like that. So with these R&Ds, we have a test furnace there as well. We have electric arc furnace in the testing size, laboratory and pilot size. At the end, our aim is to achieve the green alloy, which is a carbon-free alloy. So we acquired Alpchrome. I would like to mention some details about Alpchrome. It's quite actually the facility that under Alpchrome are quite old. The mine is exploited. It has been exploited for last 70 years, and there are two smelting facilities in different locations in Bural and Elbasan, as Professor Mondi also mentioned about that. So we have a head office in Tirana, which I am based on. So Alpchrome has more than 2 million tons of ore reserves, and considering the concession agreement valid until 2040. So considering our existing capacity, it will last around maybe 15 years, maybe 20 years. So what we are going to do then? The Alpchrome has more than 1,000 direct employees, and we have lots of subcontractors we are employing in our mine and plants. So all the material produced here is exported globally, mostly to US nowadays. Actually, I don't want to go into detail of Alpchrome, but I want to mention that there is another mine under Alpchrome, which is Vlahan mine. Now it is under development. We are revising the feasibility. Now I believe that in the near future, we will bring it into production and use this production in our plants. So as you see from...
Just got a minute to go, Jamal, yeah?
Sorry?
Just 1 minute to go, yeah?
Oh, really? Okay. So as I said, 2 million tons of reserves are available in Alpchrome. So what are we going to do next? So we are searching for more. We have our comprehensive exploration team working on finding new resources in the Balkans, in all around the world. So the aim is to have a sustainable production, whatever the market condition is here. So these are the past productions in Alpchrome, and recently we are going to 60,000 tons with the help of good market prices as well, but the problem there is the energy. So what we need to focus also here is in the corporate social responsibility. So in order to have a sustainable mining activity, you need to be responsible and contribute to the community, and be a good corporate citizen. And in terms of ethics, you should behave right and don't harm the environment. And you should obey all the law. But in order to do all of these things, you need to be profitable. So the first thing that the private company aims is to be profitable so that it can achieve the other tasks. So in this respect, we are investing in the CSR this year with around $100,000 budget, but it will be increased in the near future because this is our first year. We need to see how is it going in terms of profitability. So we are also investing in training our manpower as well. So we will bring a trained workforce to here. So our budget will be defined in terms of percentage of EBITDA each year.
I'm going to have to stop you there, Jamal, because we're going to run out of time.
Just 1 minute.
One more.
Okay, thank you. So in order to achieve this target, we need to invest in our mines. So you see there are lots of investments. So in next 5 years, we are going to invest $70 million in different projects to improve increase the capacities, increase the environmental sustainability level and safety as well, and there will be some social facility investments for the people. I am skipping this ferronickel because we focused on the other things. So in terms of strategy of doing business, we have the can-do attitude first as a company, and we have a good track record of turning around. Now we are here to turn around the production. So after implementing our systems here, like strategy setup, digging for opportunities and investing on HSE, talent, capacity increase, efficiency, etc., we will start the game for us. So as I said, energy and talent is the biggest challenge for us now in Albania. We are also interested in investing in energy. Okay, I am skipping this. And as being one of the biggest global investor in Albania, so considering the mining chain starting from the exploration to sales, we have different fields to contribute with the people. So let's communicate to each other, collaborate, and create value together. Thank you for this time.
Thanks very much, Jamal. That's very exciting news to hear what's going on. We'll move rapidly along to Paul Cronin, who's the CEO of Adriatic Metals, developing a new mine in Bosnia-Herzegovina and exploring in Serbia.
Thank you very much. I'll try and be as quick as I can. I realise it's late in the afternoon. Adriatic Metals set up in 2017 purely with the objective of looking for metal deposits not within the EU but near the EU, nearshoring opportunities. Our first acquisition was in Bosnia and Herzegovina. We acquired an old open pit lead, zinc and barite mine, and we also picked up an exploration licence. We started drilling on that in 2017, and that has now become one of the highest grade polymetallic projects in the world. If we could just play this video, I'll talk through it as it plays. The Vares Silver project, a little misleading. It's zinc, silver, lead, gold, copper, barite and antimony. And we are producing saleable concentrates of all of them in 2 concentrates. A zinc concentrate, we'll be producing around about 90,000 tonnes a year of zinc concentrate and around 65 to 70,000 tonnes a year of silver lead concentrate. The project is in construction. We are fully financed. We are trying to construct in the most hyperinflationary environment that I can remember in my living history, which is really fun. But we are making great progress. We will hit our ore body in November. We will be producing ore on stockpile in November and December. Our plant will be complete in March. We'll commission in April, May next year, and we will put our first concentrates on a train to Plotje from Varosh on a railway line that has not been used in 20 years, but we are reopening. And that railway line will then potentially offer an expansion opportunity to connect both Sarajevo and Belgrade via rail. The project itself has now got over 300 people working on it. We have around 90 pieces of mechanical equipment moving 24 hours a day. We are blasting every 12 hours and we are making tremendous progress. But as you can see there, Varosh is an old mining town. This processing site was built in 1976. It operated until the late 1980s. It is an environmental liability. We are reusing that environmental liability. We are essentially cleaning it up. We have made the decision to build the processing plant on the old site, even though the mine, the underground mine, is 25 kilometres away. And we are constructing a new road that will be able to be used not only by our haulage fleet, but by the entire community, which will be able to connect both ends of the Varosh municipality, which is the largest in Bosnia and Herzegovina. So again, it's an example of where a company is looking at the needs of the community. Sorry, I'll move on. Looking at the needs of the community and aligning that with how we're trying to build our project. As I said, it's a very high margin project. It's fully funded. We have great support from government. We built that up locally through the local community, through a range of community initiatives. We do have exposure to both base and precious metals, both of which are in the proverbial toilet at the moment as we watch metal prices fall, but regardless, we hope they'll recover. We have great shareholders, institutional funds from across the world in New York, Sydney, London, Paris, Frankfurt, Toronto. And we are implementing, and what I'm most proud of, the best practices in terms of sustainability. The project itself, as I said, is a valuable one. It generates a lot of free cash flow in its early years, and we are always looking at ways of improving that. It does sit in the lower decile of the cash cost curve for silver projects globally. And we are progressing the project very, very quickly. To go from discovery to production in 5 years is almost unheard of in this industry. Normally it's around 15 years. The local community in Varosh and the government in Bosnia have asked us to do this. They've asked us to do this quickly. They want to see investment, they want to see growth in their economy, but they want to see it done right. In addition to all of this work on construction, we are still conducting exploration. Just last week, we announced that we've extended the known zone of mineralisation to the northwest of our Rapitsa deposit with some exceptionally high grades. I think the best one there was around 25 metres at over 25% zinc equivalent. Those are the sorts of grades that we're dealing with at the Rapitsa deposit. We think that this deposit will continue to the northwest and we'll be exploring not only Rapitsa, but also on our other exploration areas in and around the town of Varosh for many, many years to come. We have 22,000 metres of drilling planned this year on the Varosh project alone, as well as another 6,000 metres on our Serbian project near Raska. In terms of where the company is going, it's about generating near-term cash flow. It's being able to repay our shareholders for the investment they made in us going into a jurisdiction that was untested from a mining perspective and being able to deliver on that. It is also our intention, as I said, to expand our mine life to over 20 years. bring it to 20 years, we meet the technical criteria for being a Tier 1 deposit. And that means that the Western Balkans becomes a Tier 1 mining jurisdiction. That in itself will bring more investment into this area. And we're going to diversify. We've already acquired our first project in southern Serbia, and we'll be making further acquisitions late this year and early next year on a pan-European strategy to be able to produce a diversified array of metals that will not replace the big mines in South America, Australia, Canada, but will provide a portion of Europe's needs so that any supply disruptions, as we've seen recently, can be managed. We have a very strong bilateral commitment with government. We will represent about 25% of Bosnian FDI this year. Our exports in the first 5 years will be just under $2 billion US dollars. And over the life of mine, which is currently 10 years, but likely to extend quite quickly to 15, will be just under $200 million. But our key focus is our sustainability. We know that if we're going to be successful in a European context, we must be able to demonstrate the highest levels of sustainability. We've done that well. We have EBRD as a shareholder. They have worked with us, and we have produced one of the best environmental social impact analysis that I have ever seen. During this year, we're starting to develop advanced occupational health and safety systems. We're working on our gender diversity, which is already high for the mining industry, but we're going to push even higher. 33% of our board of directors in London are female, 25% of our staff are female, which is quite a feat for a small company trying to grow in the jurisdiction we are. We have also started really developing our people. When we talk about sustainability, we talk about economy, environment, community, but there's a fourth pillar, and that fourth pillar is people, where we are investing millions of dollars in training up young kids straight out of university who want to have careers in the mining industry. We're doing that through graduate programs. We're just about to commence the construction of our graduate village, where graduates will come and live. And we've managed to convince these kids all the way as young as 14 in their high school earth sciences program that this doesn't come from an orchard. So we are making a lot of progress in terms of building that industry in Bosnia, creating a platform for sustainable growth in metals and mining, and we'll continue to develop that through our decarbonisation strategy and net zero. We are presenting our sustainability approach to the board next week, and I expect that we'll announce our net zero target date sometime in September, which I think most people will be surprised how close that is. We are also focusing on UN Sustainable Development Goals, looking at everything we do and how they fit into those goals. But also we're working with government in Bosnia. We're working with government to create a more transparent industry. We're talking to the Bosnian government about the benefits of the extractive industry's transparency initiative. We know that we'll get support for that from both the British Embassy, the US Embassy, the World Bank and EBRD. But so far, we've got pretty strong support from the government to implement these because they understand that these initiatives are going to create a platform for investment where communities can have trust in the mining companies and the governments which regulate them. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Paul. That's great. That's very, very interesting. And hopefully we'll have some time for some questions at the end. Our next speaker is the exploration CEO, Mentor Demi from Western Tethyan Resources. They're exploring in Kosovo. And yeah, you're going to give us some of the challenges and interesting points about this type of exploration.
Yeah, thank you very much, Richard. Good afternoon, everyone. Apart of the last two speakers, we are still a pure exploration play. We are a UK-registered mineral exploration and development company. We are a young company, but we bring a very big experience in the region, more than 100 years of combined experience from the Southeastern Europe. We are led by our non-executive chairman, Chris Sangster, with over 40 years of experience in mineral exploration and development, and myself as a CEO, but also we bring other board members and expertise into the company and into the region from all different parts of the mining cycle and all different phases of mineral exploration and development. We are a very small company, mostly owned by Ariana Resources, an AIM-listed gold producer with gold mines in Turkey. And we recently just got a little bit of help from Newmont Mining with $2.5 million financing for target generation and early stage exploration. A part of the financing from Newmont, we also got a very big database, which probably is worth like 10 million US dollars from the work Newmont did in the late 80s, early 90s in the region. Why should you look Western Tethyan Resources? We are focused on a very prospective mineral belt. We have a team that has experience from discovery to production in the region. We do own some very prospective land, especially in Kosovo. And also we have a strategic partnership with a junior miner, but also the largest gold mining company in the world. Right now we are focused in Kosovo, whilst we are assessing several other mineral projects, including brownfield projects, especially in Bulgaria. In this map here, all the pink dots are the licenses where Western Tethyan Resources has application for or that are granted. So in Kosovo, we are focused on the central northern part of Kosovo. The central licenses are the licenses where we have approval by the mining agency for 10 years of exploration, whilst the other licenses highlighted here in pink are the licenses which are in progress. As you can see, we are located on highly prospective structures. Kosovo is a very small country, and all those licenses are within a 50-kilometer radius. So it's very easy to operate. Specifically, Hertisa Tepeza licenses cover 61 square kilometers and are part of the Lecce magmatic complex, a magmatism which is mostly known for quartz diorite intrusions. And it's the only difference between the other projects located in Kosovo is the intrusion type, whilst the other are characterized by quartz latites. The Lecce magmatic complex is mostly quartz diorite. This area has never been looked before for porphyries or epithermals, although at the center of these licenses, the area which is not covered by us is a polymetallic, old polymetallic deposit, but never was looked for porphyry. So we discovered intrusions in two localities within our Hertisa license. It is still early stage program. Right now we are doing a license-wide XRF geochem sampling, and we should be doing some geophysics later this year. An area that's characterized by argillic and an intermediate argillic alteration extends for about 2 square kilometers. So highly prospective for epithermal porphyries. And as anywhere else in the region, basically where those juicy intrusives interact with older rocks, older sediments, they create a favorable host for CRD type. We have an example in our own ground, just in the south, where basically old Yugoslav testings return some very anomalous grades. We still have to test that from our own. These are just several pictures of different alteration styles discovered within our 61 square kilometer license area. You can see epithermal stibnite veins, porphyry and malachite staining veins, and also the CRD type lead zinc mineralization. These three licenses are also located adjacent to each other, cover 239 square kilometers, highly prospective for low to intermediate style epithermal deposits. In these licenses, we are also covering with licenses-wide soil sampling, geochemistry, XRF sampling, but our reconnaissance work so far has detected several areas which are highly prospective. Just highlighting here several areas worth mentioning: 20 grams gold and 700 grams silver. We have a very prospective area in the north where stream sampling returned up to 10 grams. But probably the most important structure we have within these licenses is a 20-kilometer long pyrite, arsenopyrite staining structure, which is located with a detachment fault. These are just few photos from an area. This is a farmland in Kosovo, basically exposing pyrite and arsenopyrite mineralization at surface. Another license application we have in Kosovo is Paruchi, located just south east of the KMC project, a very well-known deposit from El Dorado, now owned by an Australian group, I think. This is a very young license, but we believe that we have something very good cooking because the mineralization extends to Kosovo, and also the geology setup is highly favorable for hosting extension of KMC's skarn deposit or something on its own. The other license, this is just a new application basically in Kosovo. We are located just south of Adriatic's Suvaruda and Kijevac mines or projects, and also between several polymetallic mines in Kosovo. This is part of a large magmatic complex that extends throughout Trepča mineral belt, basically. So we are still a young company, but we are aiming to develop fast through our development of our own projects to drill stage, but also we are discussing with several third parties in Kosovo and also Bulgaria for acquisition of brown field deposits or projects. And we are also looking to submit our new license applications in Kosovo and Bulgaria this year. Right now we are conducting a very regional-wide target generation, which includes Serbia, Greece, and Bosnia. We are financed for now, but we are looking to do another private placement sometime soon, and probably IPO sometime later next year. So anyone interested in exploration play in Kosovo and in the region, please talk to us. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Mentor. That's great. So, Tony, you've got a full 15 minutes.
Oh, no.
We made up time especially for you. So,
Speak slowly.
yeah.
Yes, for your translation, Australian into English, dial up number 6.
So, any people who don't know Tony, just as an introduction, he's currently based in Belgrade, but he has been, as far as I can see, just about everywhere in the Balkans over the last few years. Notwithstanding that, he's been just about everywhere around the world. So we're going to get a not just a Western Balkans perspective of his experience, but a good all-round view of all the things he's been up to in his long career. So take it away, Tony.
We've actually got a very small company that we've set up in Serbia. It's got an employee base of 5 people, a couple of engineers, a couple of geologists, a surveyor, and we quite enjoy working in this part of the world. This presentation is basically to say where mining can take any individual or any engineer in their career. I have to give a disclaimer. This is just because you might recognise the mine, you might recognise some of the people in the photos, or you might recognise some of the names that we use. They're all fictitious, and any relation to any real operation in the world is purely by chance. Okay. Here's a question for later. Would you, as a mining company or a consulting firm, try and open a mine in a war zone? We'll get back to that at the end of the presentation. I need to tell you a story about a spotted tiger in Ethiopia. Now, this is a friend of mine, Tinas, was developing a decline in Ethiopia. If you've never been there, it's very hot and it's very dry. And of course, when you're putting a decline down, you have to use water as part of your drilling machines and everything else. So your decline happens to have a nice little puddle of water in it in a very dry climate. My friend Tinas pops into his project and all his workers are outside the portal and are refusing to go to work. So he goes, "What's going on?" And they say, "Boss man, we're not going down there. There's a spotted tiger in the decline." And everyone knows there's no such thing as a spotted tiger. So my mate drives down in his Toyota and guess what? There's a very big spotted cat in the bottom of the decline. So he scares the cat and gets the cat in front of the four-wheel drive and quietly drives out the portal. And of course, the workforce is looking around the corner, looking down there, and all they can see is the white lights in the darkness of the Toyota. Except when the spotted cat comes out of the decline, they run into the jungle. And he said it took 2 days for some of them to come back. So this is my safety topic. Whenever you're putting down a mining infrastructure in other parts of the world, just be cognizant that you might have something different going on. A year later or so, I was in Namibia and we decided to put a new decline in there. And of course, we had an old adit that was into the old historic mine that was there, so we decided to go and have a look. So you put your hat on and you get your torch and you wander in there. Guess what we saw? Very, very large paw prints and cow bones that had been chewed. So we put in, I'll just go back one, the spotted tiger decline in Namibia, okay? For those that don't know what a spotted tiger is, it's a leopard. And they're very nice creatures to have hanging around in your mining site when you're trying to develop. Also makes a very good acronym for those of us that speak bad English. Okay, let's talk about some other African experiences. So, who can mine in Africa? Or is it a basket case? You've heard from banks and investment companies and PE companies. I've spoken to quite a lot of them over the recent period of time, and a lot of the investment companies just basically say, Africa, basket case, we're not going to invest. So you have to be very specific and be in specific countries and doing specific things if you want to go and open a mine in Africa. Mali. Let's talk about a very good company that just did a reverse takeover of one of the largest gold companies in the world. They had some really, really great deposits there. They also were given a tax window from the government. So if you want to go and open a mine that's rich as hell in gold in Mali, you get a 4-year tax window where you can invest in all your equipment and everything else and don't pay tax for 4 years, then you pay rather high tax. So, African country, Mali's quite a nice place to go and work, except recently they went to war. That was a little bit of a drawback. French Foreign Legion, a bunch of other African nations were there fighting. So, there's Mali. Tanzania. There was a particular very large gold company that had three really large high-grade gold copper assets there. They did a deal with the government, or the previous government to the current government, and that meant that they had very, very good working conditions. which means that they didn't pay a lot of tax and they got to siphon off some of their funds and everything else. And then one day the government changed, and the new government didn't think that they should be losing all the value from that particular asset, and it went and put some of the directors in jail. Okay, everyone knows who it is, everything else. Tanzania, a great place. Would you invest in Tanzania today? They've had to claw back their tax because nobody wants to go anywhere near that particular country until it's all sorted out. The mine in question that they shut down still has containers, 20 footers, full of copper concentrate that they can't move out of the country. So do you want to actually be a director for a foreign company working in Africa? Maybe not. South Africa. What does the future hold? You know that all the big boys have left. So all the really large monster companies that got their money out of South Africa have pulled out because of political risk. Okay? You have a bunch of platinum mines and you have a bunch of gold mines. These things are 2 kilometres deep. They haven't sunk a new shaft there for 40 years, I don't think. And that means that on Naval and the gold mines, where you were sinking the shafts every year and expanding the operations, hasn't been done. So the major capital investment that's required to go there, as a smaller company, you can pop in and get a fire sale and buy a gold mine. Do you really want to work there? Last time they had a strike was 6 months. How can you survive with no income from 6 months because your workforce goes on strike? Okay. Burkina Faso, I had the absolute pleasure of going and looking at an asset there. Richard knows all about it. Again, it was a foreign national, went and opened a gold mine there, and it was great. Unfortunately, Burkina Faso is one of the poorest countries in the world, which means that if you're a government and you want to take some money off someone, guess who you go and see? The local mining company. They're good for it. This particular mining company built this huge big dam, and they're nomadic, so it's a desert. So they built this huge big dam, and then all of a sudden these villages pop up, and the nomadic, tribes just go and start building around the dam because they've suddenly got fresh water and they've got good grazing. The government wanted to charge them for the water for the mine from the dam that they built. Seriously. Okay. Liberia is an interesting place. There's gold mines, and it's one of the safest and better places to invest these days in the world. We'll tell you Zambia copper story. Everyone knows that the Indians, and one of the largest smelting groups in the world, decided to go and bribe the government and get into Zambia and build smelters and have the largest copper mines in the world. They did that, let's say, 10 years later. They went and did a bit of an audit, and they got an international team of gentlemen to go in there and look at their copper assets. And they decided that one of the pits wasn't quite economic. So this think tank of foreign nationals come in and decide we need to shut down one of these mining operations. So they had a meeting, and there were a couple of union reps up the back of the meeting, and they presented to the board and said, guys, this one's not making so much money, we need to shut it down. There's only 3,000 employees. The local manager from the particular Indian company flew up to Zambia and had a big meeting where he was speaking to the workforce from the mine and going to tell them they're all dismissed. Didn't quite work out like that. A couple of black limos drive up. There was the president, there was the head of the mineral department, and a bunch of policemen. They escort him off stage, tell him to leave the country, never to return. The mine didn't close. Okay? Who wants to mine in Africa? True stories. This is one of the gold mines that we're talking about. The other one's just a local village in Mali somewhere. This one here, for those that would recognise it, is associated, I think, with a base metal mine. This one here is one of the largest zinc deposits in the world. Number 3, actually. They're going to put a massive, massive open pit here in South Africa. This is some of the really good equipment that you find in the mines that are underground. Okay, let's jump around the world a bit. We'll go to Mexico. So, do we want to mine in Mexico? So what do you need to be successful anywhere in the world, and how did I find myself in Mexico? I actually got sent there as an associate of a very, very reputable consulting firm, basically because their insurance wouldn't cover their employees. And it had something to do with long-eared drillers getting kidnapped and ransomed off and all that sort of stuff. So the particular really good consulting firm that we're good mates with sent me off to Mexico because their insurance company said, no way, can you go? So we got there. We were hanging out with the local security guys, and they were explaining to us that, like, a week before we arrived, there were like 10 people killed in the local village at the bottom of the mountain. So we drove up there and we were on the mine at the top of the mountain, and 10 people got killed in pretty much a narco action, because it's on the drug route from South America straight through to America, and anyone along there, there's really nasty drug cartels that occasionally get upset with each other and kill each other. Okay, let's talk about the mine. It's one of the best base metal mines I'd ever seen. The resources were spectacular. The particular company paid a fortune for it. They paid 400 million US bucks. 5 years later, they sold it for 20. Okay? That just tells you that no matter how good you are, and if you're a Swiss miner that lives in a dark room in that part of the world, you cannot operate in Mexico. Let's see if the new company can. The value of the mine is phenomenal. It had everything. It's got base metals, it's got copper, it's got gold, it's got silver. Its value of metal in the ore is $276 US per tonne mined. If you can't make money at that, you can't make money. But unless you can visit Jurassic Park, this is the old historic mine. They mined the silver, and there's a smelter in the pictures that the Mexican government or the Mexican people took over and funded the Mexican Revolution. So the mine in the picture, which is this old historic one that was mining really high-grade gold and silver, and this is the smelter that they built, and it's now part of the jungle. This was a new mine. Okay. You might recognise Eastern Europe or the Balkans, it's all pretty much the same. So we'll talk about your part of the world, just so you don't feel left out. Okay. Is it easier here than it is in Africa? We've talked about Africa, we've talked about America. Is it easier to mine in this particular backyard than it is there? You've got the history, guys. They were mining back in the Bronze Age. That's why it's called the Bronze Age, strangely enough. Then the Romans came along, they had a few Turkish miners, they had Europeans, so the French were in, the Germans. Then part of this became part of the old Soviet or socialist, and now everyone's here. So everyone figured out that there's actually good resources here in Europe, let's come and do some mining. Who can operate a mine? Anyone can in theory. What about in practice? So what do you need to go somewhere and open a mine in this part of Europe? Paul's done a really good job, and he ticked all the boxes, okay? So for Adriatic Metals to come in and bring a mine online in the period that he has is phenomenal. Most people talk about 20 years, okay? Where are we talking? Albania, where we are, Bulgaria, Bosnia, Macedonia, Montenegro, Serbia. They all have their own individual problems, and they have some of the best resources in the world. You have a belt of metal that starts up here and ends up going through all of these countries and bottoms out in Bulgaria. I don't know whether it goes to Greece. Does it go to Greece? Don't know. Okay. This is the Chelopech mine. I happen to have the pleasure of working there, and they did a bunch of modernisation and stuff like that. This is how we find some ore. This is a Macedonian mine. You can see the old rail levels and stuff like that. It's got a decline and everything else now. For those that don't recognise it, this is from your mine.
Yeah, what would you...
Okay, where else? So we've talked about most of it. Where's the rest of the world, and are we interested in that? Saudi Arabia, been there, done that. Got arrested twice, visited 3 times. You really don't want to get arrested in Saudi Arabia, seriously. India, Philippines, America, South America, Australia, Europe, Ukraine. Okay, so what have we learnt? What has any of this got to do with mining the world? Okay, you've got physical challenges. You've got the fact that it might be cold, it might be too hot, you might have malaria, you might not have clean water, you might have spotted tigers. Okay, so climatic conditions, obviously we're worried about floods. Someone introduced global warming and now every time you turn around you've either got a drought or you're flooding. Accessibility, logistics. Most times they don't put the mines right next to the major highway in the nicest part of town. Normally it's in some horrible place that's a desert and heaps from everywhere else. Cultural problems. You might be a Catholic and you might have a mine in a Muslim district, which causes issues. You might be a Muslim and have a mine in a Catholic district. That's cultural. Politics, religion, languages. You've got issues where you have to learn local languages. Politics is the big one these days. We did mention it briefly in Dragon's talk earlier with our good friends that wanted to open a lithium mine. Someone got involved in politics, it got shut down overnight. It hasn't been stopped, it's just been put on hold. But that's a sovereign risk. No one would have thought about it. I live in Serbia. They've been saying, come invest for the last 6 years. They had a bunch of people walking around with placards on a couple of the highways, and it's a case of, nope, you're not allowed to mine, no mining. Well, a little bit of mining if you're the right company and you go about it the right way, but if you don't, and NGOs and other people get involved, you might not have a mine. Ever-changing mining landscape. This is to do with our investors in India. When they went and invested and bribed the government and put all the money in, they thought they were safe. It took about 8 years for the government to change. When the government changed, the new government decided, well, these other blokes got a bunch of money off these guys, surely to Christ I can. So when they went and hit them up and said, give us some money, they said, no, we bribed the last lot, we're not going to give you any money. Guess what? They can't work there, or won't work there very long. Here's one of my favourite photos. This is for the environmentalists and the green movement here. This is environmentalists' revenge on the mining industry. Okay, this is climatic. This is actually in Ukraine probably about 15 years ago. It was that cold. He had to heat up his spark plugs to stick him in the engine so that he could actually start the dozer so it worked. Here we go. You might recognise this person, and this is at the same mine with a bit of ice and freezy cold conditions. If you like it hot, here you go, you can have a mine in Australia. Guaranteed to be the hottest place at the time. 40 plus degrees. Do you really want to go mining there? This is just a nice picture. I didn't have any other reason for putting it in. Africa. And that's it. Was I quick enough?
Yeah.
Oh, great.
You overrun a bit, that's fine though.
Back to the question. Would we go and open a mine in...
Your profit at 2 minutes.
Yeah. We are seriously considering it at the moment. We're going and being invited to go and open up a mine in Ukraine while he's at war. Will we go? I think we will. Thanks.
Thanks, Tony. That's very entertaining. Now, is Arthur going to let us have a couple of questions if we've got any? Yes, we've got time for a couple of questions. If anybody would like to field one. Everyone wants a beer. I was just going to ask a question, and it's probably to Paul and Mentor and Tony. We've been doing MINEX now in Eastern and the Balkans for, well, 7 years now. What do you think has changed in terms of the landscape and the environment for investment and development of projects in those 7 years? COVID notwithstanding, but obviously, you know, we're in a new area, aren't we? A new era.
Well, I would say nothing's improved, with possibly the exception of Albania, quite frankly. As a jurisdiction, I think it is continuing to progress both politically and economically, and it's creating the right circumstances for mining investment. Since we started looking at projects in the Balkans, we've seen either little progress or deterioration in the investment climate. It's driven by things like a lack of transparency, outdated mining codes, inconsistent mining codes, that creates a lot of difficulties for companies to be able to progress assets forward. So, look, I think there's potential, or a huge amount of potential for improvements across the Balkans and across the various governments in the Balkans. There are institutions, international and domestic institutions, that are there offering to provide the support for that transition to a far more market-based economy and an open economy. It really is now just a matter of those governments finding the political will to implement the changes that are required.
Oh, thanks, Paul.
I'll just quickly clip on a couple of the countries. I was in North Macedonia when the government changed. As part of that, they gave a promise they were going to go and shut down a copper leaching operation that was in the final stages of building the processing plant, which they did. And that pretty much sends a very clear message about whether you want to invest in that. They also tried to ban all the harmful chemicals that were used in mining. Unfortunately, the thing that they forgot, the most harmful chemical you use in mining is explosives. So if you really want to go down that path, ban explosives in mining, and that'll pretty much solve your problem. And everyone's seen on the news what happened in Serbia. A bunch of NGOs came and did some protests on some bridges and shut down some roads, and they put 2 projects on hold that were in the feasibility construction stages, which was Dundee's and Rio Tinto's Jada project. And that just stopped any investment in Serbia. So there's 2 of the regional countries that you can't play in anymore.
Okay. And Mentor, your experience in Kosovo is positive?
I'm also from Kosovo, so I'm a little bit biased. Well, the importance of this kind of probably regional focus conferences is because a part of the companies getting together and showing opportunities and progress. Also institutions from different governments can sit together and also see different expertise. So going back to Paul's question earlier today, most of the Balkan countries have a similar mining legislation, but they change in some places. For example, we have a Kosovo representative here, so I'm going to ask him maybe a question, because all of the Balkan countries have a flexible NSR on their producing metals, but Kosovo have a flat percentage. So, for example, this is something that Kosovo government, for example, should work on maybe making that flexible, like Bosnia or like Bulgaria, Greece, and other countries have. So that's a bit of an issue. But as long as this kind of gatherings happens more often, probably is a good chance for everyone to see different and to have different things thinking on how we develop the mining, because it has been an unexplored area for a very long period of time. I'm looking projects in Bulgaria that last have been explored in the 60s, or we have in Kosovo same, 70s or early 80s, and that's it. So it represents a huge opportunity for investors and companies to come and do something there. But at the same time, we as a companies and as international professionals, we should bring expertise to the governments and help them change the laws or working environment. So,
No, absolutely. Thanks very much. I don't know if anybody else has got any comments. Any other questions? We'll wrap up then. That's great. Well, thank you very much for the 6 speakers. It's been really entertaining, very, very interesting to hear the whole range of experiences in this region. And thanks everybody for keeping with us for the full day. It's been a really good day. Thanks, Arthur, for organising everything, and thanks to all the speakers from all the sessions today. It's been really wonderful. And I guess time for a beer.